Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the First World War. I'm Mike B, and today we're going to be talking about a subject that has to do with Americans. And it's actually something that I just thought of, and recently I got some props that I'm going to be selling in my shop, so check out the link in the description to that. If you're watching this at a later date, I don't have them in stock anymore. I apologize, but I'm hoping to keep these in stock permanently now. Anyway, as you can see from the title, we're going to be talking about what kind of grenades the United States used in the First World War. Now, I'm going to give a brief history about kind of how grenade usage in general in the First World War, and then we'll get to the United States and kind of how they did their thing with hand grenades. So, in 1915, most militaries actually didn't have a standard issue hand grenade, right? They've existed for a long time, but there were kind of like, just like everything else that was coming from the old age into the modern age, they were trying to figure out how to make it, able to be carried and be safe and not have to light a fuse. So different kind of like blasting caps, percussion caps and stuff like that mainly, and pretty much taking a primer, like a shotgun primer, hitting it like, you do with any artillery shell or whatever, and then having that detonate, or light the fuse inside, blah, blah, blah. Basically having an enclosed grenade that's waterproof or water resistant and able to be carried and relatively safe to carry and doesn't just blow up. And you don't need to have an actual physical lighter. So in 1915, you're going to start seeing a lot of these hand grenades, like the German Stielhandgranate, which was like the stick grenade. You're going to see the French F1. You're going to see the Mills bomb, the most popular kind of hand grenade, one of my favorites actually. All these are going to be starting to be used in 1915. They're going to be produced and they're going to kind of be tested out in the field. And then you're going to start getting a million different designs. Everybody thinks that, there's a difference between offensive grenades, defensive grenades. I'll do another video on that, of course. Like the Vietnam series, this is going to be almost endless. So anyway, it started to become kind of a standard practice for each military to have its own like standard issue hand grenade, plus other specialty kind of grenades. Like the Germans were notorious for having a billion different kinds of grenades for different purposes. They had disc grenades, all that stuff. Anyway, so improvements were made, things were made safer, and grenades started to become an offensive and defensive weapon as much as a rifle or a pistol or a bayonet or a knife. So you're going to see hand grenades. Now, what they did is they'd take soldiers specifically and say, you're going to be our designated grenadier. So a lot of them would just have bags of hand grenades, German, French, British, all that stuff. And they would be, in a wave, they'd be kind of some of the first guys to go up there and start blowing up machine gun positions if they could get close enough and stuff like that. And then grenades were launched from rifles. I'll do another video on that eventually. That's a pretty fun subject. But they figured out how to use hand grenades in a capacity that nobody's ever really seen before, as far as grenades being used in combat just on the battlefield. So, as a result of that, pretty much every military by about 1917 had at least one standard hand grenade issued to them. And it was widely available. You can see pictures of just about every country. They've got grenades at the ready for defensive purposes. If they're getting attacked, they can just start lobbing hand grenades and it slows down the first wave and people get tangled, all that stuff. Anyway, I'll make more videos on that. So that's just a brief history of the hand grenade in World War I and pretty much in the modern era. Now, when the US got involved, like you've seen hopefully in my previous videos, if you haven't, check out this playlist. This is a really cool one. And you can see kind of how we weren't really prepared. The US was not prepared to enter World War I. With that, we did not have our own hand grenade. And we didn't have a lot of stuff. We didn't have our own helmet. We didn't have our own hand grenade. And we went over there and were issued a lot of French equipment. Most of the Americans were actually going to be in the French sector. Now, there were one or two units. I know the 30th Division for sure, Old Hickory. They were in Belgium. They were in Flanders in a British section. So I'm going to get into kind of that little niche thing. So technically there was two most popular types of hand grenades issued to U.S. troops. So the first one is actually going to be the French. This is a resin replica. It's actually a really good one made from an original hand grenade with the original fuse and everything. And you got a little pull ring here and stuff. It's awesome. I'm so glad to have this and actually start selling these. And I'm going to definitely keep a few for my impression. Anyway, excuse me. It's fall. It's getting to be flood sinus season. Anyway, the French F1. Now this is the 1916 version with the Brillant is what it looks like fuse. So you've got the spoon here, the pin that you have to pull, and you release that, and it pops the fuse. Now the earlier F1, the 1915 version, just had a percussion cap top that you actually like had to hit on something, like Japanese Type 96 grenades, like from World War II, where you actually physically pull the pin and you hit it on something, or you take the cap off. Now they found out that a lot of those would, the caps would fall off while people were carrying them in bags and they'd blow up, so they came up with this system. Now, this is going to be the most widely used hand grenade by American Expeditionary Forces. It's the earlier ones are painted kind of this blue, like a lot of French equipment, and then the later ones in like 1918 and stuff were going to be painted gray. You're going to see both styles used by U.S. forces. The French gave them old stock, new stock, whatever they could kind of spare. So this is about 90%, 95% of the American Expeditionary Force was going to be using this all the way up and through November of 1918. Now, that being said, the Mark I, which I also have a replica of somewhere, a resin one, but they were not widely used because they were super hard to use, very unsafe. They had like 3 different arming things. A lot of times Americans would throw them and they wouldn't be fully armed, and the Germans figured out that and they started throwing them back. So the Mark I really wasn't well liked or used. So whenever they could get these, this is money for World War I American soldiers. The 1916 F1 with the brilliant, I don't know how to pronounce that, you guys. With the brilliant fuse system with the lever, which later became the Mark II and the Mark III. And pretty much every decent modern hand grenade has got a system similar to this, where you hold it like that, and then you pull the pin, release it, it pops off, it ignites the detonator starts going, and then it hits the fuse, and then boom. So that is going to be the #1 most used hand grenade by American Expeditionary Forces. Now, the people I was talking about, I don't know. No, the 28th was not up there. There's one other unit that I'm almost positive was up in Flanders in Belgium, and therefore they were issued SMLEs, so #1 Mark III rifles, a lot of British equipment for logistics. Like, it's really hard to get American arms and stuff up to that area when the British can already supply that. So, as well as like the French, like we were using in the French sector, that's where most of our supply was. So we had 30-06 cartridges. We had 1903 rifles, 1917 rifles, 45 ACP for our sidearms. We had all that stuff, but up in Belgium, there really weren't a lot of Americans, so the supply, it was decided to just have them use British equipment. Much like the 368th and 369th Infantry, the Harlem Hellfires, before the American Expeditionary Force actually went over there, those 2 units actually went over to France and were using all French equipment, wearing American uniforms. That's a cool video I'll get into. But it's just a logistical nightmare to have one unit with one style of weapon that's a different caliber than everyone around you. So, as a result of that, you're going to be issued the #5 Mills bomb up in that sector, the Americans. And this is a really sweet design. The guy that invented it, it was heavily patterned off of some other models, and he was actually sued for violation of patent or whatever. And anyway, so this is the #5. The green band indicates it's the certain kind of filler, amorite, maybe amorite. Anyway, it's just the type of filler that's in there. This indicates that the fuse is actually in here and it's live, because they didn't come live. You had to actually screw this into the bottom to make it live so they could transport safely. And it's the same thing as the F1. You pull the pin, boom, the spoon flies off, starts the fuse burning, and you've got 3 to 5 seconds to throw this, hopefully, if the fuse doesn't burn too fast. So these are going to be the 2. There was also a pink one with a pink band, and that was a different kind of filler that had more oomph, I think. Or maybe it had less, I don't know. It's one or the other. I'll make a video separately on just grenades themselves. These are both resin replicas. They're going to be available in my shop. I'll put links to both of these in the description. And yeah, that's all I've got really on the grenades of the American Expeditionary Force. Now, it's a weird subject. You wouldn't really think about it. You'd think that we use the Mark I, or some people think Mark II, or even, whatever. They just don't know. But yeah, this is going to be the most common, and this is going to be the second most common. I think the Brits actually supplied us with these in French sectors too, if I'm not totally mistaken. I remember reading about that somewhere, that even in French sectors they were going to be getting the Mills bomb because they used a lot of hand grenades and the French couldn't keep up, and et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Again, link in the description to these. I think they're really cool. Even though they're resin replicas, they look exactly just like the originals. They're not quite as heavy, of course, because they're resin, but they're solid, and for an impression, or just to have for living history, or just even to have in a collection, originals are going to cost hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. nice replica is really cool. I'm actually gonna be keeping some of these as well. So thanks for watching, everybody. Let me know if you got any questions. I try to answer them. I'll do more videos on grenades and weapons and stuff as time goes on. But yeah, I appreciate you watching. This channel is funded by viewers, so if I get props like this one is a little bit different because it's actually for my business. But if you like visual aids like that, consider supporting the channel on Patreon. That link is also in the description. There's several ways to support the channel. Thanks to my current patrons, I got some really cool stuff coming. I'm just waiting for it in the mail, and you guys are going to benefit from their generosity and their support. So please consider becoming a supporter on Patreon. If not, that's fine too. I appreciate you watching. Go ahead and give this video a thumbs up if you would, so it kind of gets up in the ratings so more people can see it. I'm not going to ask you to subscribe, because if you want to, you will. If you don't want to, you're not going to. So anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. If you got any questions or you liked the video or whatever, feel free to comment on here. So I'll try to answer any questions if I didn't already. And if not, thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you on the next video.